Hello, this is Hakon with another episode of something or other. I'm not sure which category I will put this in, if I do have a category for it. Maybe it's a random thing. It might be a random thing. If you've seen the random things intro before this video started, it's a random thing. Okay. Um, I do like making videos about vintage computing, like the Commodore 64. Most recently, my video on Your Computer magazine from 1982. But something else really interesting happened in 1982. Just a bit of background first. A few years before, Dungeons and Dragons happened. Fantasy role-playing became a thing. And for those not so familiar with it, a fantasy role-playing game like Dungeons and Dragons is one where you sit around with a group of friends. One person has a job of being the game master, or the dungeon master, they call it in Dungeons and Dragons, and your other friends, including yourself possibly, unless you are the dungeon master, take on the roles of different fantasy characters, and very often these are based on the likes of Tolkien's world, where you have dwarves and elves and and humans in some kind of combination. You are take on a kind of role of a sort of typical fantasy story hero, like a warrior or a wizard, something like that. And the game master is then directing you through an adventure where you have to choose what to do and you play out the battles that you get into. And often you're trying to solve some kind of quest. And if I remember correctly, I actually didn't look this up before I started making this video, although I do realize now I should have done. Dungeons and Dragons was late 70s, of course. And this, interestingly, of course, this new way of playing a game coincided just exactly with the advent of home computing, where people now could sit at home at a computer and play games. And another thing happened around the same time. You also got more board games. So it's not that the computing was a new way to get away from board games or the traditional games. It became something that grew together with it. And in 1982 is quite an interesting year as well, because in 1982 this happened. This is Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone's The Warlock of Firetop Mountain. It's a book, and it's called a fighting fantasy. It's called, so obviously it's something to do with fantasy, and this grew on the shoulders of adventure games. Text-based adventure games on computers were hugely popular at the time, and of course Dungeons and Dragons. And I don't think this is the first of its genre, but it certainly became the first major bestseller of its genre. What it is, what is today known as a choose your own adventure. So you start reading the book. First, there's an introduction, and it tells you some rules, how it works. There's an adventure sheet where you put in your stats, your items, your monster encounters, your gold, jewels, potions, etc. So it looks a bit like a role-playing game so far. And right, so you start reading, and there's a numbered section 1 here. At the end of section 1, you're given a choice. It says, will you turn west, turn 271, or east, turn to 278? So basically, when you make your decision after reading a paragraph, you go to a different paragraph, numbered 71 or 278 in this case, and then you have to leaf through the book until you get to the right place, 71 here. And you're given new choices every time at the end of one section. It either says go to this page, or it says, or go to this section, or there's a choice. Sometimes there's a battle, and you have to play it out with dice. as you do in role-playing games as well. You roll the battles. Of course, there are more ways to read this than one. I mean, this whole book then is, of course, a quest to kill the warlock of Firetop Mountain, who's making life miserable for everyone in a town called Anvil. Is it called Anvil? I'm just remembering this from the old days now. I think it was called Anvil. Anyway, and several paths might lead to the end. Maybe only one path leads to the end. If you make a wrong choice, you can die. If you're not lucky rolling the dice, you might die, and you would start over again. But of course, starting over again, you would have learned something from your first journey into this quest, into this adventure, and you might make better decisions next time. You might be luckier with the dice next time. If you're a really sort of hardcore player, you would do everything by the book, literally, in this case. Some do enjoy reading these in a completely different way. What they do is every time they get to a section with a choice, they look at both entries and just to so they can read through every single possible path there is. These kinds of readers usually also would just pretend to win every battle just because they want to go further and see what happens next. And you can read through... Oh, there's a bit of a tear here. Oh, somebody's torn it a little bit. I bought this second-hand, you see. So yes, 1982, a little bit of a revolution in home entertainment, you might say, and a new sort of genre of book that became hugely popular. And this went all the through the 80s. With the growth of home computers, game computers, with the Commodore 64, the Amiga, the Atari, all those ones. And I'm not sure how long this was a big thing for. I mean, it certainly sold millions and millions of books. This is number one in the series. There were lots of... Well, it doesn't say number one on the side. Oh, must be an early edition since it doesn't say number one. And this is number 50, which is called Return to Firetop Mountain. So that's the same warlock has returned. He wasn't dead after all. Who knew? So I just recently bought these two on eBay. I used to have quite a few of these books back in the day. Did sell them again at some point. Most of them I bought secondhand and then I sold them secondhand. My first book was obviously this one, and the reason I actually discovered this 1982. If this had been in the shop in 1982 in English, I wouldn't have bought it because I didn't speak English at the time. But this was so popular, it was translated into Norwegian, would you believe? And I'm sure it was around 1985, possibly. I just happened upon the book in Norwegian in the bookshop. University bookshop, actually. I would like going to the university bookshop. They had so many interesting books there you didn't see in normal bookshops. They also had a children's section, and in it they had this book in Norwegian. I bought it after leafing through it a little bit, and I was completely fascinated by this this way of playing a game while reading, because I loved reading, and I already loved games. I mean... So why wouldn't I? It was brilliant. I did buy quite a few others, as I did mention before, but I think the one that... I mean, I really liked the way it was written. I liked the artwork they used. They got very nice pictures, both on the covers, and also they have some amazing... let's see if I can find a good example. Some amazing line drawings inside as well. So I really like the pictures and the art style. But I think the only game that really appealed to me to play, because it just felt so well balanced and well made, was actually the first one. So this is the one that really appealed to me. And I played it over and over again. I did cheat quite a bit because I did just like sort of seeing every possibility. I drew a map of Firetop Mountain based on this book, every little detail on it. I do not have that map anymore. That would have been so cool to still have, though. I must make a new one. And And recently, when I got into a bit of a nostalgia phase, I thought, well, maybe it's about time I looked into this again. I wouldn't mind playing this again. And also, because I just like that Firetop Mountain scenario that was in this book, I bought Return to Firetop Mountain, which is the 50th in the series. And I'm not sure if it's the last one in the series. I don't actually know the full release history there. But I just thought, yeah, why not? I noticed, oh, this is only Ian Livingstone on it, and not Steve Jackson. The first book they wrote together, and I do believe I've heard they took about 6 months to finish it, which may not sound like a lot for a book, but it's not a thick book. I mean, it's a game, so you really have to make sure that you balance out all your different steps and choices, not make it too hard, not make it too difficult, and of course trying to give you exactly the descriptions you need in every single little section. Usually you only have a few lines for each entry, and so you must make all the lines count. So yeah, a very interesting genre, I think, and the reason I'm telling you this is because this is a little introduction, I think, because I'm planning to play this for the first time. I've played this before, but I will play it again, but I'll play this for the first time, and I thought I'd make a video about it. This is going to be really boring for most of you because it's not like you're playing, but there are lots of videos of people playing video games on YouTube, and people watch them, and I watch them as well sometimes, and I find them entertaining and interesting, so why not do a video of an old geezer like myself being nostalgic and playing Return to Firetop Mountain by Ian Livingstone, number 50 in the Fighting Fantasy series, from 1992. Wouldn't that be something? Well, for those of you who don't fancy that idea at all, stop watching, or maybe it's a different video, probably, so it might be the same video. This might be the introduction to the actual video that I'm playing this game. And for anyone who thinks that might be interesting to watch, then please keep viewing. Anyway, I'll set up the game, so I'll leave you for a few moments, and I'll just get everything ready that I need. And I will have to change the camera angle because I think I'll put it on the book rather than on me. Should have had 2 cameras for this, maybe, so I can show my expressions when I see weird things happening at the same time as doing the book. But I could do, but it's a bit inconvenient. I'll leave it like it is now. Right, so I'll be with you in a few moments. Small transition coming up. Right, I have gathered my supplies and I am ready to go back again to Firetop Mountain. Sorry about the glare, but that's just the front page. So I've got the book, I've got 2 dice, I've got a pen and a pencil, got some paper so I can make notes, and I'm ready to dive in. Let's see, let's put those there for now. And see, how do we do this? Let's see, I'm not going to read the blurb. Okay. Illustrated by Martin McKenna. I'm not sure if that includes the cover. Let's see, introduction. So, before embarking on your adventure, you must first determine your own strengths and weaknesses. Okay, so we got an adventure sheet, which looks like just like in Warlock of Firetop Mountain. So we got, I'm not going to use this, I'm going to use paper here. So we've got skill, stamina, luck. Those are my 3 attributes. Otherwise there's weapons, armor, treasure, equipment. I suppose that's not so vital to make notes of right away. Yeah, I'll just make notes of that as I go along on the same sheet of paper. So first, how do I find my skill? Let's see, roll 1 die, add 6 to this number, and enter the total in the skill box. Okay, no cheating. So skill is 8 is my initial skill. Stamina. Roll 2 dice plus 12. So that's 7. So that is 19 stamina. And luck. 1 die. Oh, that's outside of view. I'll just do that again here. And my luck is plus 6, so that is 10. So that's my initial scores: skill 8, stamina 19, and luck 10. Okay. And those are my initial scores, and they are permanent, and then I'll just use pencil to write any temporary changes. Okay. Battles. I'll get to that at some point. Okay. Oh, another very important thing I forgot. Tea, yes. Right. So I'll just go back to the battle thing when I get to my first battle. Luck. Oh, using luck in battles. In battles, you always have the option of using your luck either to inflict a more serious wound on a creature or to minimize the effects of a wound your opponent has inflicted on you. Okay. Okay, so you can do extra damage by using luck. Well, that is a beautiful, beautiful picture there. That is nice. So that's Firetop Mountain there, I presume. Right, so I think I am ready to go, actually. So we've got a background story here. So 10 years is not a long time in a wizard's life. Some live for over 200 years, keeping themselves alive by their own magic and potions. There is a well-known saying among wizards which goes, "You're a long time dead, so let's live instead." Some wizards even went on one step further. They cast a spell on themselves so that in the event of their being slain or assassinated, they were able to raise themselves after a predetermined time when their assailant was long gone. The wizards who chose to come back from the dead were, however, always aligned to evil, for it was dark magic that was needed to cheat death. One of those wizards was known and feared by the name of Zagor, the infamous warlock of Firetop Mountain. 10 years have passed since the day when he was killed by a brave adventurer who risked the guards and deadly traps deep inside Firetop Mountain to save Alancia from his evil magic. But killing Zagor is one thing, keeping him dead is another. Nobody knew that Zagor had cast a raise dead spell on himself, otherwise the adventurer who killed him would have sealed him inside his mountain tomb. But all that was 10 years ago, and the last 6 months sinister events have begun to happen around Firetop Mountain. First, the top of the mountain, which was famous for its red-coloured bracken, has turned deathly black. Livestock, which have grazed on and around the mountain for decades, have started to die a sickening death, and recently people have even disappeared, dragged inside the mountain, it is said, by hideous creatures of the night. Those good people who remain are terrified, for it is rumored that Zagor has risen and is building himself a new body, bit by bit, from the unfortunate villagers of Anvil. You are an adventurer, a sword for hire, wandering through the lands. Coming to the village of Anvil, you decide to stop for a rest after your week-long march. However, as soon as you enter the village, you sense that all is not well. The villagers look frightened, and women quickly push their children indoors as you walk along the main street. You decide that the local tavern would be the best place to find out what is troubling the villagers, so you enter the Two Moons. The chatter inside dies down quickly to a low murmur, and the customers eye you as you walk up to the bar. The barman stares at you sternly, and you can see by the look in his eyes that he is a proud man trying to hide his fear. Yes, he grunts in a low voice. You tell him that you are an adventurer seeking a new quest that will end in riches and honor. He frowns, not knowing whether to trust you. Does the name Zagor mean anything to you? He asks softly, watching you closely for a reaction. Zagor, you reply confidently, was the warlock of Firetop Mountain until he was slain 10 years ago. Is the warlock of Firetop Mountain, the barman says dramatically. He's come back to life. He is building himself a new body and is sending his evil servants to Anvil to take back live donors. The barman seems to accept you as a friend and quickly goes on to tell you about the doom that has befallen Anvil, thanks to Zagor. We need help, stranger, he says desperately. None of us here has the power to defeat Zagor, but maybe you do. We are poor and cannot pay you what you deserve or to take on such a task, but we do know that there are chests full of gold inside Firetop Mountain. Will you help us? By now the tavern is silent. All eyes are upon you. How can you let them down? Slowly you smile and nod your head. On one condition, you say. Name it, the barman replies. That I get a hot bath in the room for the night. You laugh. Done. Everyone in the tavern lets out a cheer, and they all gather round to slap you on the back and offer to buy you some ale. In the morning you find the barman, whose name you learn is Moose, cooking a large breakfast for you. You must set off south immediately to visit the Grand Wizard Yaztromo. He alone can prepare you for such an adversary as Zagor. Don't even think about tackling Zagor on your own. He is stronger than ever, and his magic is deadly, Moose says earnestly. You thank him for his advice and bid him farewell. Now turn to paragraph 1. After a sip of tea, Paragraph 1. Leaving Anvil and its villages behind, you set off east, deep in thought. Firetop Mountain is only a short distance from Anvil, but to go all the way to Yaztromo's tower first would mean losing many days valuable time. How could Yaztromo help? Ever since he single-handedly defeated 8 ghoulish dark elves on the edge of Darkwood Forest, the place where he built his famous tower, his reputation has grown. Wise, good, powerful, philanthropic, and many other words were used to describe the great Yaztromo. Many sought his help against evil, and none were turned away. Suddenly there is a shout from behind you. You spin around to see Moose running towards you. You notice that his sword is drawn, and there is a look of alarm on his face. Zagor will know of your plans, unless we can catch the 2 trackers I saw running from Anvil a few minutes ago. They must have overheard us and are running back to inform Zagor. Quick, follow me. We must catch them, Moose says hurriedly, still panting. He runs off into the undergrowth, shouting at you to follow him. If you wish to do so, turn to 341. If you would rather continue to walk along the path alone, turn to 161. So now we got our first choice. So we are, let's just do some mapping here. So we start at number 1, down here. Oh, that looks a bit fuzzy, but that's okay. So we want to either follow Moose 341 or alone 161. So we got choice Moose 341, alone 161. Okay. I do apologize that it's a bit fussy, but well, the off-center sharpness of this camera is not great. Right. I wish to follow him, so I'm going to 341. So 341. Right, here we are. So you run after Moose, keeping your head down to avoid the many outstretched branches. You catch sight of something sparkling in the bushes. If you want to stop briefly to find out what it is, turn to 82. If you do not wish to stop, turn to 267. So we've got so 82, stop, and 267, go. Let's just say go. Okay. I'm going to stop and see what that is. So I'm going to go to 82. Let's see. You find a round polished shield, half buried in the dirt. Take it if you wish and turn to 267. Okay, so in this case, the two choices, actually one was just a detour. So 82 brings us back to 267. And I've now got a shield, which is really cool. Well, why would I leave it there? It says I may take it. Well, I'm definitely going to take it. So I've got a shield and I'm on 267. Oh, somebody's been folding. Let's see. 267. You have to run hard to keep up with the moose. He zigzags through the undergrowth, glancing down at the ground occasionally for prints. All at once he stops and puts his arm up for you to stop running too. You hear a rustle of branches to your left, followed by a piercing howl. Will you charge into the bushes towards the noise? Turn to 72. Or stand your ground? Turn to 374. Okay, a sip of tea time. So we now have 72 charge or 374 stand. And I am going to stand my ground. I'm going to go to 374. Let's see, C74. A dagger flies out of the bushes straight at you. If you're holding a shield, turn to 49. If you do not have a shield, turn to 196. Ooh, how lucky. My shield has already become useful. So I do have a shield, so now it's... this is not a choice, it's a sort of a multiple thing. So I'm going to do, let's see, dot 196. I'm not going to look at that. And shield 196. And I'm going to 196. Okay. Ooh, nice artwork there. The dagger thuds painfully into... Oh, hang on. Did I look at the wrong one? 374. I thought I had a shield. It's not supposed to hit me. Ah, if you do have a shield, turn to 49. Sorry, yes, I'm mixing them up now. 49. Shield. Not 196. Go away. Okay, I have a shield. I don't want to be hit. There we are. 49. Reacting swiftly, you fling your shield up to block the steel dagger, which clatters off the shield and harmlessly to the ground. You pick it up, then charge into the bushes, brandishing your sword. So I picked it up. Does that mean I now have a dagger? I'll put a dagger here. Brandishing your sword, which means I have a sword as well. I'll just put that here, so just so we know. Turn to 72. So I'm just going to 72. So I'll just go to 72. Oh, hang on, 72. That is... Now that I'm done this little diagram here, I can see 72. That's the same as running into the bushes. So all this waiting has actually meant that my opponent had time to throw a dagger. If I hadn't waited, the dagger would not have been thrown and it may have been safer. But now we are going back to 72. Okay. See, this is one of those little loop things that can happen sometimes. 72. Well, looks like this is what we're up against now. You leap into the bushes, your sword cutting through the air. To your right is Moose, and in front of you are the two servants of Zago. They crouch, daggers drawn, and growl, foamy spittle dripping from their dog-like jaws. Half dark elf and half goblin. Trackers are perfect hunters and messengers, always armed with a crossbelt of throwing daggers across their chest. They will not usually fight openly unless cornered. Suddenly they throw their daggers at you and moose, and draw their short swords. But you are ready and duck below the flying dagger. Wasting not a second more, you charge at the nearest tracker. And this tracker, skill 7 and stamina 6. And now I have to do a little combat. I'll just... already got so much going on my main piece of paper. I'll just do this. So it's skill 7, stamina 6. And this is on 72. Okay, and now just look over the rules of combat. So, this is my first combat for a few decades. Let's see, skill, stamina, luck, fighting, battles. Here we are. Okay. Sequence of combat is 1. Roll both dice once for the creature. Add its skill store. Okay, skill score. So 6. So it's got a 13. That's the attack strength. And then I'll roll them for myself. And 9 plus 8, so that's 17. So mine is higher than the opponent. If your attack strength is higher than that of your opponent, you have wounded it. Proceed to step 4. If the creature's attack strength is higher than yours, it has wounded you. Proceed to step 5. If they're the same, you have avoided each other's blows. So 4. You have wounded the creature, subtract 2 from its stamina score. Okay, so now it's down to 4. Okay. Begin the next attack round until stamina reaches 0. Okay, so the tracker again, rolling 7 plus 7, 14. And I've got 8 plus 7, that's 15. That was lucky, so I got 2 more damage in. And the tracker, 7 plus 8, 15. And mine is 8 plus 10, 18. So the tracker is dead. And no cheating. Ooh, that feels good. I usually didn't play it like that in the old days. Anyway, so we're going back to 72, and it says, if you win, turn to 306. So we are going to 306. And I am now here, and that is 306 a win. There's nothing there. Okay. So 306. You pull your sword free from the tracker's chest, and looking round, see that Moose has also been victorious, despite a deep gash in his left arm. A search for the tracker's bodies reveals 6 gold pieces. Okay, so we've got, let's see, just do gold, and just put a number in pencil, 6. Each stamp with the letter Z. You agree to keep, 3 each. Okay, so 3 gold pieces. So 6 gold pieces, each stamped with the letter Z. You agree to keep 3 each, and you also take 2 steel daggers. So steel dagger. So technically I got 3 daggers now. Well, it did say I picked one up earlier. Not content with emptying pockets, Moose pulls the boots off the trackers and gives them a shake. A folded piece of brown-stained paper falls to the ground. I'm not touching that smelly thing, laughs Moose. If you want it, you can have it. If you do as Moose suggests, turn to 218. If you would rather leave the paper on the ground, turn to 106. Okay, so it's going to be stinky, smelly, and rather disgusting. 218 paper and 106 leave. But I am so curious. I'll see. Maybe Maybe it's so disgusting I have to roll for stamina or something to see if I don't throw up. I'll go to 218 and see what the piece of paper is. The folded paper is damp with sweat and an unsavory smell wafts up from it. Holding it gingerly by the corners, you shake out the folds. A pair of blood-red eyes are drawn on the paper. Suddenly they burst into flame and your hands start to tremble uncontrollably. You have been cursed. Oh dear. Deduct 2 points from your skill. Okay, so skill is now down to 6. You drop the paper to the ground and the trembling stops. Moose apologizes at great length, blaming himself for your misfortune. Forget it, you say reassuringly. At least Zagar doesn't know I'm coming. You walk back to the path together and there bid farewell once more. Then you set off east alone. Turn to 161. Okay, so in this case, this leads to curse, 218. So I'll just make a little note of that there, so that if I'm playing this again, I do not want to do 218. Then 161. So now we're finished with this section here, and this brings us back to the second path from the beginning, 161. So if one had started in the beginning, if you chose to go alone all this little bit, you wouldn't have been cursed, you wouldn't have got the loot, you wouldn't have killed the trackers, or the trackers wouldn't have killed you, and all that would never have happened, and you'd be back in the same place. How exciting. Right, so I'm going to 161. By midday, the sun overhead is shining brightly, and it is uncomfortably hot as you walk along the dusty path. You hear the sound of someone whistling. Then in the distance you see an old man leading a donkey. 2 large wicker baskets piled high with mushrooms are strapped to the donkey's back. As you approach the man, he comes to a halt, and standing boldly in front of his donkey with his arms folded across his chest, he says, "I'm Dung Heap Dan, the mushroom man. I'd rather be a poet than a man who has to hoe it." He smiles and bows as if waiting for applause. If you want to talk with Dan, turn to 286. If you would rather ignore him and keep on walking, turn to 237. So let's see, 237. Walk and 286. Talk. I'm going to talk with him, even though I'm presuming he's going to be saying silly things. So maybe there is some method to his madness. You open your mouth to speak, but Dan immediately interrupts with another rhyme. "Take a mushroom, I won't tell. When you're ill, it will make you well." That wasn't very cryptic. You realize that talking to Dan would be a waste of time. You accept his gift gratefully, putting the mushroom in your backpack. So a mushroom. Dan then sets off with his donkey towards Anvil, leaving you to continue east. Turn to 237. So that was another circular little thing there. So 286, you get a mushroom. You go to 237. Okay. And it sounds like the mushroom can cure you of something. So maybe if you get poisoned or diseased or something along the way. That's a nice picture again. Half an hour later, you come to a place where the path splits. If you wish to keep walking east towards Firetop Mountain, turn to 19. Okay, so we got east. So 19, Firetop. Or would you, if you would rather turn south towards Darkwood Forest and Yaztromo's Tower, turn to 120. So 120, Yaztromo. Okay, so I think I'm going to go to Yaztromo's Tower and see if he's got something to help me. I think he will. I do believe Yaztroma was in the Warlock of Firetop Mountain as well, right in the beginning. As you were heading towards Firetop Mountain the first time, you actually go to Yaztromo's tower, I think. Right, 120. It was 120, wasn't it? Yes, 120. An hour or so later, you hear a cry for help coming from a wood in the middle of the scrubland to your right. If you want to investigate, turn to 318. If you prefer to keep on walking, turn to 250. Side quest, yes. If you avoid side quests, you might be more likely to win the game, but then again, side quests is what makes it interesting. So, I'm going to investigate, and I'm going to 318, investigate, 250, walk. So 380, there we are. I'm not going to survive this, am I? I'm going to die long before I get to the mountain at this rate. Especially with a skill of 6. I mean, that is rubbish. Right. Oh, here we got a picture as well and a long paragraph. So. You soon come upon a man who is lying stripped to the waist and staked out on the ground. Somebody has spread honey over his chest and face, and he is being stung by hundreds of red ants that are crawling all over him. You hasten to cut him free, then roll him in the dirt to get the ants off him. Although he is in great pain from the angry red bite marks that cover his body, he is not in mortal danger. Bandits ambushed me while I was riding along the path. Before taking off my horse, they decided to make me pay for killing their leader in the fight. Thanks to you, their plan has failed. Here, take this as a reward, stranger. It's a ring of invisibility. Ooh, a ring of invisibility. My own. My precious. I suppose I should have used it to hide from the bandits, but it is a very old ring and has only one more charge. Oh, one more charge left. Ooh, I'll better save that for a special occasion. Off you go now. Don't worry about me. As soon as my horse is left alone for even a second by those infernal bandits, he'll come galloping back to me. After making sure the man is fit enough to be left on his own, you head south along the path, turn to 250, and I've got a ring of invisibility. 1 charge. And I'm going to 250, so I'm going back to the other option now. So there we are, 250. And that sounds like it was a very good idea to stop for the side quest there. Something very interesting going on over here. That's not the one I'm reading now. Okay, so 250, don't look at that. The rest of the day passes without incident, and as the light starts to fade, you begin to think about finding a place to sleep for the night. You know that dwarf village of Stonebridge is not far away. I think Stonebridge I've seen that somewhere else. I think that was in some other story. It's not far away, although you do wonder whether you will be able to reach it before nightfall. Will you find somewhere to sleep while it's still light? Turn to 329, or keep walking towards Stonebridge. Turn to 143. Now this is an interesting choice because finding somewhere to sleep outside might not be as safe, but then again, walking in the dark may not be safe either. I think I'll find somewhere to sleep while it's still light. So let's see, so 329. So that's sleep or 143. Stonebridge. Normally I would use a bigger piece of paper for this, but since I'm trying to get everything in on the screen here, I'm making it a bit on the small side. Sorry about that. So I'm going to see if I can find a place to sleep while it's still light. So I'm going to 329. Right, so you leave the path and wander into the undergrowth. Eventually you come across the ruin of a wooden hut, which looks as if it was burnt down years ago. Ivy covers what's left of the walls and floor, and the people who once lived here have long since moved on. You decide to poke around the floor of the hut with your sword. After several stabs into the ivy, you hear a dull clunk as your sword makes contact with something metallic. You cut away the ivy and uncover an iron ring, which is attached to a trapdoor. Lifting it up makes a loud creaking noise, and as you peer into the gloom you hear insects and small creatures fluttering and scurrying below. On the top step of the stairs leading down you see a candle and a flint. You soon have the candle lit and climb down into the darkness. You find yourself standing in a small cellar with just enough headroom to stand up in. Cobwebs are everywhere. There are 2 clay pots on a shelf and a wooden box lies under a rickety old table. Despite the profusion of insect life and small rodents, it seems to be a safe enough place in which to spend the night. Will you... Ooh. Multiple choice. Go to sleep. Go to 95. Examine the clay pots. Turn to 386. Examine the wooden box. Turn to 33. Find somewhere else to sleep. Turn to 180. Ooh, interesting. I'm going to start examining the wooden box. I like wooden boxes. So I'm here, and I got 95, sleep, 386, pots, 33, box, and 180 somewhere else. This map is going to be a big mess. I'm going for the box, 33. And maybe I'll be able to do something else afterwards. So, okay. You prise the lid off the box with the tip of your sword and you discover a small leather pouch inside. The pouch contains a small wooden ball and a small wooden brick. Deciding to keep them, you put them in your pocket. If you have not done so already, you may now examine the clay pots or go to sleep. If you'd rather find somewhere else to sleep, turn to 180. So, okay, so I've got the other options again now. So, I also want to examine the pots. So first make a note here. So I've got a small wooden ball, small wooden brick, and then I'm examining the pots, 386. Okay. The first pot is empty, but the second contains a large iron key with the number 142. Ooh, I like keys. Large iron key 142. Stamped on its barrel. You decide to keep the key. Well, duh. You make a mental note of the number. Yes, that's it. Got it. 142. The meaning of life, the universe, and everything plus 100. Easy to make a mental note of. If you have not done so already, you may now examine the wooden box or go to sleep. If you would rather find somewhere else to sleep, turn to 180. You know what? I'm going to sleep here. I will sleep here. So I'm going to go to 180. No, hang on. Go to 95 and sleep here. Let's see. You make a bed out of ivy tendrils covered with an old sack. After eating some bread and cheese, you close the trapdoor and settle down to sleep. In the pitch-black darkness, you can hear scratching sounds as the insects come out of hiding, but soon you are fast asleep. In the morning, you wake to the sound of footsteps crossing the floor above you. You grope slowly for your sword, trying not to make a sound. Test your luck. If you're lucky, turn to 352. If you're unlucky, turn to 370. Okay, we have to be very quiet while we try to figure out how we test for luck. Let's see. This was right in the beginning. Luck. The procedure for using your luck is as follows. Roll 2 dice. If the number you rolled is less than or equal to your current luck score, you have been lucky. So, my luck is 10. I need to roll less than 10, or 10 or less, rather, on 2 dice. Okay. Here we go. Shh, quiet now. Yes, I'm lucky. Okay. So I'm lucky. And I'm turning to 352. You feel like a trapped animal with the blood pumping through your veins until your hand encounters the reassuring cold steel of your sword. At any moment you expect the trapdoor to be thrown open. You can hear muffled voices, but they do not sound human. The sound of a horn suddenly blasts out and the creatures above you run off. You wait 5 minutes before slowly raising the trapdoor. Peering out, you cannot see a living soul. You climb out of the cellar, make your way back to the path and head south. Turn to 238. So, so there was sort of a choice there, and then I'm going to 238. 238. Yeah, that's not going to map out properly, but it was a luck choice really, so it doesn't matter so much. Right. So presumably, if if I failed my luck check, those creatures that were above me would have attacked, or I would have had to fight them. So, which isn't the best thing to do now that my skill is down to 6. Right, 238. I'm going to 238. Oh, nice. That's the one with this picture. It's quite striking. A brisk 3-hour march brings you to the outskirts of Stonebridge. You walk into the village and are met by 2 dwarfs. News travels fast in the Lancia, for one of them says, "Welcome, stranger. We have been expecting you." "Oh, Mr. Stranger, we have been expecting you." Seeing your puzzled look, he continues, "A messenger bird brought us the news from Anvil, and we wish to help you so that you can meet Yaztromo. It is a good fortune that you came to visit us, because Yaztromo is not at his tower at present. He has gone to the town of Card, which is far to the west of Stonebridge, down the Red River. Plague has broken out there, and he has gone to help, but we are not sure if this is of Zagor's doing. We have a fast sailing boat that can get you there in half a day. It is manned and ready to sail immediately. Come now, follow us. We have no time to lose." You follow the 2 dwarfs through the village to the banks of the Red River, where a strange-looking sailing vessel is moored. It is about 10 meters long and is narrow, but with canvas racks sticking out on both sides. A 5-meter pole pokes threateningly out of the bow. The bow? The bow. Is the bow or a bow on the ship? Suddenly I'm unsure. Is it bow or bow? Okay. The bow of the ship. Must be bow, surely. Oh, I can't let that go. I have to check that up. See, the bows and bows. Why does English have to be spelled in a way where sometimes you are unsure of what is correct or not? Take a bow. It's a bow. Bow and arrow. Bow of the ship? Let's see. It is a bow. It's the bow of the ship. Yes, good. The bow of the ship. See, I don't use this term very often in English, so I just forget these things. Right, so, sorry about that. Didn't mean to interrupt. So, where am I now? Yes, we are... The canvas rack sticking out on both sides. A 5-meter pole poked threateningly out of the bow. Doubtless a ramming weapon. The mast is tall and curved, somewhat resembling an enlarged longbow. See, there's a bow and a bow in the same sentence. The massive sails flap noisily in the wind, waiting for someone to harness their power. 9 men stand in line before the boat, their faces brown and lined, as all seasoned sailors' faces are. A dwarf points to the men and says, "These men are good friends of the dwarfs of Stonebridge. They will take you to Card." Pointing at the shortest man who is standing at the head of the line, he continues, "This is Zach. He is in charge. The helmsman's name is Laurie. The others are Phil, Ian, Stoy, Crook, Mark, Nail, and Draw." Yes, quite interesting names. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation in their own language, but I'll just go with that. You greet the crew and climb aboard. The vessel feels very unstable, being so narrow, and starts to rock from side to side. "We're out of here," shouts Laurie, jumping aboard. The two dwarfs untie the boat as the rest of the crew also jump on board. They rush about their various tasks, pulling on ropes, balancing the boat, trimming the huge sails. The boat pulls away, immediately, ploughing through the water at an alarming rate. Ahead you notice a rowing boat lying upside down and bobbing along downstream. An orc is clinging to the upturned hull. If you want to tell Laurie to slow the boat in order to pick up the orc, turn to 398. If you'd rather sail on, turn to 136. Now, do we usually stop to pick up orcs from boats? Do we? Not usually. If we point out to him that there's an orc there, would he rather kill him? I don't know. I'm a bit curious. I think I'm going to ask him to... let's see, where are we now? 238. So we've got 398 orc, 136 sail. So I'm going to go 398 and see what happens. I'm a bit curious how his reaction will be to the orc. The crew quickly brings down the sails and the boat glides to a halt alongside the upturned rowing boat. Andrew throws a rope to the orc, but the orc turns and dives into the river. "Ambush!" cries Phil, looking behind you. You see two orc war canoes that had been hidden beneath the branches of trees along the river. Coming towards you. A hail of arrows is loosed on your boat. Roll 1 die and reduce your crew, 10 men including yourself, by this number. Okay. So crew is now 5. So crew 5, including me. Okay, so crew 5. Stoy clutches at an arrow that has gone right through his neck, then gurgles a dying breath and slumps forward onto the deck, his legs twitching in spasms. Ignoring him, well, no point doing anything else. The remainder of the crew scrambles to hoist the sails as the war canoes draw closer. Test your luck. If you're lucky, turn to 77. If you're unlucky, turn to 175. So, okay, big mistake trying to stop for orcs clinging to boats in the river. Okay, testing luck. So that's 2 dice, 10 or less. Yes, I am lucky. So turn to 77. So I do not want to do that next time. So I'm going to circle 398 and red. And I'm going to go to 77. Is that the right one? 398. Lucky, turn to 77. Yes. I'm going to 77. There we are. And a little bit more tea. That concludes the tea drinking for the moment. Let's see, just get some water there. Right, a very nice picture there. Right, and that is the warlock, I presume, looking a bit patchy. Anyway, 77. Yeah, I presume that if I failed my luck test, I would have had to roll a die again to see if any more crew were killed, and if I was killed as well, then, well, we would all die, and that would be the end of it. But I was lucky, so... With our sails hoisted and trimmed, the boat is quickly underway, and the war canoes are soon left far behind. "No more stops until Ka'ad," snarls Laurie, pulling hard at the helm. Feeling guilty, you sit alone on the rack, watching the vivid landscape speed by. Test your luck. If you're lucky, turn to 40. If you're unlucky, turn to 258. Okay, so luck again. Okay. Not lucky. Oh well. At least I didn't die from being unlucky this time. Oh, did I? I don't know. 258, that's where I'm going. Right, 258. Casually looking up into the sky, you see a white dove flying towards the boat. Before it can land, however, a large jet-black predatory bird swoops down on the dove, clutching it in its long, sharp talons. The dove flutters its wings in resistance, but is carried off by the sleek bloodhawk to some distant nest to be fed to its young. Okay, so obviously if I'd managed to do my luck test, the dove might have landed on the boat and there would have been something positive happening. Maybe it had a message, might have been a messenger. Dove, messenger pigeon. Turn to 11. Okay. Right, so 11. Oh, haven't really kept track now. As the morning wears on, dark clouds appear overhead and the wind quickly picks up. The unstable boat is caught by a sudden gust and tilts disconcertingly over to one side. If the crew consists of 5 or fewer members, including yourself, oh dear. Turn to 54. If there are more than 5 crew left on board, turn to 312. Oh, we might capsize now. So 54. This is again something I can't do anything about. The crew try frantically to ease the sails and balance the boat, but the wind is too strong. The boat flips over onto its side, spilling you and the crew into the cold water. Roll 1 die. This is a number of razorfish that converge and attack you without warning. Okay. 2 razorfish. Okay, so 2 razorfish. 2. I just made a note on my sheet there. If there are as many or more razorfish as there are crew, including yourself, turn to 101. If there are fewer razorfish than there are crew, turn to 325. This looks like a really hazardous journey, doesn't it, just? 325. Oh, let's see. Sleek and protected by thick silver scales, razorfish attack viciously by ripping at their victim's flesh. Bit of a spelling mistake there. Victim's flesh with the rows of razor-sharp teeth. The river is soon red with the blood of the crew. The water stirs near you as one of the razorfish turns to attack you. Razorfish, skill 7, stamina 8. So we got skill 7. Stamina 8, and now its skill level is higher than mine at the moment, which is a bit alarming. So first I'm rolling for the razorfish, so that's 7 plus 4, 11, and then for me 6 plus 9, so that is 15, and it gets injured down to 6. Second round, 7 plus 7, 14. 6 plus 7, so that is me injured by 2, so I'm down to 17. Razorfish, 7 plus 11, and me 6 plus 9, so I'm getting injured down to 15. Razorfish, 8, 15. And this is not going well. Razorfish, 5. So that's 12. And 10. Now, how could I use luck in battle? Because I might need that soon now. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I forgot, didn't I? I do have to reduce my luck every time I test for luck. I've tested it, what's it, twice, is it? So I'm down to 8. Mustn't forget. Okay. I don't know. I'll keep trying. So 11. Okay. Razorfish. 13. Come on. Yes. And maybe I should try my luck so I can do extra damage to it. So if I test my luck now against 8. Yes, that means I'm doing 4 damage. It's got 2 stamina left. And Razorfish, 7 plus 10, 17. 6 plus 9. 7 plus 5. 11 attack value. And I rolled 6, which is 12 attack value, and the Razorfish is dead, but I am more than half dead. And I win. Oh, I used my luck once, and I'm going down to 7. And I really hope Yes Trauma can heal me, because this is serious stuff now. 89. I'm going to 89. I'm going to 89 because I beat the Razorfish, finally. You swim to the northern bank of the river and scramble up it, panting in exhaustion. You look back and see the boat drifting off downstream, but no crew members are left alive. Just the thrashing waters as more Razorfish swim in to feed. If you wish to rest for a while, turn to 155. If you would rather set off to the west towards Ka'ad, turn to 379. Okay, so now I'm got to the point where I am, let's see, 89, and rest 155, rest, and 379. Ka'ad. Rest. Do I want to rest? Will I gain anything from resting? Maybe I will. I'm going to rest a little bit, because I think if in real life, if I just went through all that and I was feeling quite... I would want to rest a little bit. Exhausted by your struggles in the river, you decide that a short nap will do you good. Regain 1 stamina point. Ooh. 1 stamina. Up to 10. Sometime later you awaken with a start as you feel something long and smooth slithering over your body. It is a poisonous snake. Test your luck if you are lucky, blah blah blah. So I'm rolling against 7 now. And rolled a 6. And my luck keeps going down. I was lucky, I turned to 223. You lie completely motionless while the snake slides across your body and slithers away into the undergrowth. You spring to your feet and set off for Ka'ad without further delay. Turn to 379. Okay, so then I'm back. That's a circular one again. So 379. Small little loop there. Okay. Following the track west along the bank of the Red River, you observe a lone figure in the distance walking towards you. Wary of goblins and other loathsome creatures, you drop your hand to the hilt of your sword, but the figure turns out to be just an old hunchbacked man, hobbling along slowly and leaning heavily on his crooked stick. Staring at the ground, he takes no notice of you until, drawing level with you, he suddenly turns his head towards you and says with surprising menace, "Give me a gold piece." If you have a gold piece and want to give it to the old man, turn to 123. If you do not have a gold piece or do not wish to give the old man one, turn to 245. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Gold. 2, 4, 5. No gold. I would say, since I have a few gold pieces, I've got one to spare just to potentially avoid me any kind of trouble. So I'm going to go to 123, even though he was a bit rude. He was very rude, actually. He didn't say please or anything, did he? But I'll let that slide. Smiling at the old man's audacity, you take a coin from your pocket and spin it towards him. One sinewy hand snatches it out of the air and he puts it in his mouth to bite down on it. He grunts with satisfaction and screws up his eyes to examine it more closely. "Is that the letter Z I see embossed in this gold piece I have here between my fingers?" the hunchback asks slowly. If you choose to reply that it is the letter Z, turn to 29. If you prefer to say that it is the letter N, turn to 255. Oh, well, that's an interesting conundrum. So I have here Z29, N 255. And also, how do I know whether it's an N or a Z? I mean, I don't really know, do I? The thing is, Z, could that be for Zago? And if that is Zago, could I get in trouble for saying it's Z? But N could be something completely worse, couldn't it? And it does seem a bit sinister. You know what? I'll go with Z. I'll go with Z. I'll just. I don't know what N means. I don't know what Z means either, to be honest. I'll go to Z29. Okay. Oh dear. Yes, that didn't work. So you don't want to do that. Okay. So, shouts the hunchback, you are in the employ of Zager, are you? Well, any servant of Zager is an enemy of mine. Before you have time to explain, the old man hits you across the back with his crooked stick. This is no ordinary stick, however, but a withering stick. The blow in itself is not too painful, but your back seems to bend and contract, quickly stiffening and locking in its new position, and you find yourself unable to stand up straight. Deduct 2 points from your skill, which is now only 4. Oh dear. You draw your sword and shout at the old man to undo the damage he has done to you. He has done you. Come another step closer and I'll whack you again, you evil leech, the hunchback shouts back. If you wish to attack the old man, turn to 205. If you'd rather try to reason with him again, turn to 301. And I'm definitely trying to reason with him because he's being very unreasonable. So let's see, 205, attack, 301 reason. So I want to reason, 301, please. You explain at great length how you obtained the gold and why you are now on a mission to slay Zago. Why didn't you say so in the first place? The hunchback retorts. You didn't ask, you reply sarcastically. And now, if you don't mind, how about straightening my back? Slight problem there, I'm afraid, the hunchback mutters, looking a little sheepish. I'm not quite up to that sort of hocus pocus. However, since you are on your way to see Nostromo, I suggest you get him to straighten you out. He's good at that kind of thing. Or maybe someone in Ka'ad can fix you up. Now I must be on my way. Sorry about the confusion. But you just can't trust anybody these days. Cheerio and good luck. Hardly believing what is happening, you watch the old man shuffle off, leaving you to walk to Ka'ad, burdened by a not insignificant stoop. But the old man was a shaman, and wishing you good luck will bring you good luck. Regain 2 luck points and turn to 271. So my luck is back up to 8. And I am going to... Okay, so that wasn't too bad. I don't know about N, though. That might have been different. 271. So I'm going to... 271. Okay. I don't know if it's going well or badly now. Yeah, we'll see. Hours later, you arrive at the jetty on the riverbank, where a tributary runs into the Red River, and judging by the number of people milling around, you deduce that you cannot be too far from Ka'ad. The people are dressed in tattered clothing. They all look downcast with their chins on their chests, and hardly any of them are talking. Most are carrying small bundles and sacks. You decide to approach one of them, a tall man with a black beard, and ask him what is happening. He tells you solemnly that he is waiting for a boat to take him upriver to Silverton, in order to escape the plague which is devastating Ka'ad. You ask him if he knows the whereabouts of Nostromo, and he replies that he last saw the wizard mixing potions to give the sick people in the town square. The man tells you to follow the narrow tributary north for a short distance, and he will come to Ka'ad. Turn to 182. Okay, so 182. It seems like there's quite a bit of going on here that doesn't even involve getting to Firetop Mountain. Unlike the first one, where basically, or the Warlock of Firetop Mountain, was everything was happening inside the mountain itself. Let's see, 182. Oh, this must be Nostromo here. Lovely picture. You soon arrive at the outskirts of the town, and all about you you sense an atmosphere of despair. The occasional person you meet looks either ill or scared, and there is a slight whiff of decay in the air. A cart track runs from the tributary to the town gates, and you see an old man walking along it towards you. He is dressed in long, flowing scarlet robes, and his hair and beard are long and white. From 20 meters away, he calls out to you, saying, "Welcome, stranger. I am Yaztromo, the wizard you are seeking, I believe." On reaching you, he puts out his hand in greeting. His face is suddenly lit up by the sun as the clouds pass us by, and his green eyes sparkle. If you wish to shake his hand, turn to 8. If you prefer not to shake his hand, turn to 159. And, well, why would I not shake his hand? He's a friendly guy, isn't he? So, 8, shake. 159. Not. I'm going 8. Handshake coming up. As soon as you touch the wizard's hand, he starts to laugh out loud. His body starts to shimmer, and soon you are able to see right through him. This is because you are shaking the hand of a doppelganger, not the hand of Yaztromo. The ghost-like figure has the ability to drain you of your life. When you look down, you see that your own body is turning transparent too. You try to pull your hand away, but it is too late. You are doomed to live in a twilight world forever. Your adventure is over. Right, so do not shake the fake Yaztromo's hand. Okay, so that was my first playthrough of, well, if you can call it a playthrough. I made a few choices I know I'm not going to want to make again. And I made some good choices too, I believe, so there's some useful things here in this little mess of a map I've made that I can use next time I'm playing. So, well, stand by for another episode of You Replay, maybe one of these days. At least these games are not meant to be easy. They are meant to be quite hard, actually, if you play them in the way they're meant to be played. And you are meant to try again and again until you make it. So just like a good adventure game of the 80s, it's supposed to be a challenge, both of mental acuity and of patience. So one shouldn't give up after one go. That's the thing. Maybe that's the reason why people stop buying these books, or they certainly seem to disappear from the market at some point, because it is very challenging, and people have less patience these days, don't they? One also does notice sometimes how some old computer games also are so dastardly hard that you find yourself dying within 5 seconds, and you just have to keep at it to learn how to do it right, like Ghosts and Goblins, for instance, on the Commodore 64. Right, so that is me for now, and yes. Right, that didn't go so well, but I'll try again some other day, and maybe I'll make a video about it, but you might find it really boring. I thought it was quite fun trying to play this game. I quite like the style of it. I like the choices. I'm a bit interested to see how much of a sort of a side quest thing is going on here, or many sort of things one can do without actually going to Firetop Mountain. There's quite a few things happening, and some of them are quite dangerous. So I'll be interested to see how one actually gets to the place, and how one eventually will defeat Zagor. Because so much is going on outside of the mountain, I presume that the part of the book with the mountain in it is going to be quite a bit smaller than it was in this one here, where you basically get to the mountain right away. So, right. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again for more Fighting Fantasy capers, possibly sometime soon. And or for something else. I don't know. We'll see. Just depends what strikes my mood. So yes. Thanks for watching. Goodbye for now.